I was folding laundry in my small apartment when my phone rang. My son Alex's excited voice filled the kitchen. "Mom, guess what?" Victoria said yes. "We're engaged." My heart should have jumped with joy. Instead, something cold settled in my stomach. I'd only met Victoria Sterling twice, and both times left me feeling uneasy. "That's wonderful, honey," I managed. "When's the big day?" "June. Just 3 months away. Victoria wants a spring wedding at her parents' country club." Of course she did. Victoria came from the kind of family that belonged to country clubs. Old money, fancy cars, designer everything. Meanwhile, I worked double shifts as a nurse to help Alex through college. "I can't wait for you two to get closer," Alex continued. "Victoria's planning the whole thing. She has such amazing taste." After hanging up, I stared at the engagement photo he'd texted. Victoria's smile looked perfect, but her eyes seemed calculating. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. Victoria called 3 days later, her voice sweet as honey. "Mrs. Roland, I'd love for you to help pick out my wedding dress. It would mean so much to have my future mother-in-law there." We met at an expensive boutique downtown. Victoria tried on dress after dress, each costing more than my monthly rent. The sales lady treated me like furniture, barely acknowledging my presence. "What do you think of this one?" Victoria asked, spinning in a $1,000 gown. "It's beautiful," I said honestly. Victoria's reflection caught mine in the mirror. "Alex mentioned you work at the hospital. How nice that you have a steady job. Some mothers struggle to support themselves after divorce." The comment stung. My ex-husband had left when Alex was 10, leaving us with nothing. I'd worked myself to exhaustion to give Alex opportunities. "I've been blessed to provide for my family," I replied quietly. Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Victoria invited me to dinner at her family's mansion. The dining room could seat 20 people. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above mahogany furniture that probably cost more than my car. Victoria's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, were polite but distant. They asked about my little job at the hospital and seemed surprised I owned my apartment. "How quaint," Mrs. Sterling said when I mentioned my neighborhood. "Alex must feel so comfortable there. It's refreshing when young men don't forget their humble beginnings." Alex squeezed my hand under the table, but said nothing. Victoria dominated the conversation, talking about honeymoon plans in Europe and redecorating Alex's apartment. Everything would be upgraded to match her standards. "We're thinking of moving to a better area after the wedding," she announced. "Somewhere more appropriate for our future family." The way she said appropriate made my chest tighten. Like my neighborhood wasn't good enough for her precious Alex. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. Victoria's bridal shower was held at the country club. I felt out of place among the designer handbags and perfect manicures. The other women spoke about vacation homes and charity galas like everyone should know these things. I'd saved for weeks to buy Victoria a nice gift from her registry. When she opened it, she held up the coffee maker with a bright smile. How practical. Every kitchen needs basic appliances. The way she said basic made the other women giggle. Later, I overheard Victoria talking to her friends near the bathroom. "Alex's mother is sweet, but so simple. She actually thinks we'll use that cheap coffee maker. It's going straight to charity." Her friends laughed. My cheeks burned with embarrassment. "At least she tries," one friend said. "Some people just don't understand quality." Exactly. Alex deserves better than where he came from. I'm helping him realize his potential. I slipped away before they could see me. Alex called, sounding stressed. Mom, Victoria wants to change some wedding plans. She thinks maybe we should have a smaller ceremony. You know, just immediate family. My heart sank. What does that mean exactly? Well, your sister and her kids might not fit the venue's aesthetic. Victoria's photographer needs the right look for the wedding album. I couldn't believe my ears. Alex, that's my only sister. She helped raise you when your father left. I know, Mom. But Victoria's family is paying for everything. She gets to decide the guest list. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen and cried. Victoria wasn't just marrying Alex. She was erasing his old life, including me. I looked at the photo on my refrigerator, Alex graduating nursing school. I'd been so proud. Now it felt like I was losing him to someone who saw his family as an embarrassment. The wedding was becoming less about love and more about Victoria getting what she wanted. Victoria insisted I see the wedding venue to help with final details. The country club was stunning, with manicured gardens and a ballroom fit for royalty. Isn't it perfect? Victoria gushed, leading me through the space. Everything has to be flawless. This day represents our new beginning. She showed me the seating chart. I noticed my table was in the back corner, far from the wedding party. I thought family sits closer to the front, I mentioned gently. Victoria's smile tightened. We arranged seating by compatibility. You'll be more comfortable with people who share your interests. I looked at the names at my assigned table. I didn't recognize any of them. Who are these people? Oh, various acquaintances. Don't worry, they're perfectly nice. Just more, down to earth. Like you. The way she said it made down to earth sound like an insult. I was being hidden away like something embarrassing, placed with strangers while Victoria's friends enjoyed prime seating. 2 weeks before the wedding, Victoria called in tears. Mrs. Roland, I need your help. My dress has a tiny stain and needs emergency cleaning. Could you pick it up from the cleaners? I'm swamped with last-minute details. I rushed across town to the expensive dry cleaner. The dress was beautiful, carefully wrapped in protective plastic. I hung it in my car's back seat and drove carefully to Victoria's apartment. When I arrived, Victoria was hosting friends for a pre-wedding party. She answered the door in a silk robe, glass of champagne in hand. Oh good, you brought it. Just hang it in the closet. She didn't invite me in. Through the doorway, I could see her friends laughing and celebrating. I stood on the doorstep like a delivery person. The cleaner said to keep it upright, I said. I'm sure it's fine. Thanks. She closed the door before I could say goodbye. I felt like hired help, not family. The morning of the wedding, Victoria called again. Mrs. Roland, tiny problem. My makeup artist is running late, and I need someone to help with setup at the venue. Could you arrive early? Maybe around 9 a.m.? The wedding wasn't until 4 p.m. I spent the day helping arrange flowers, folding programs, and setting up decorations while Victoria's friends got pampered at the spa. When I finally had time to get ready, I realized I'd missed my hair appointment helping with Victoria's demands. I did my best with what I had, but felt frumpy next to the other guests. Alex was nowhere to be seen, busy with groomsmen activities Victoria had planned. I sat alone in the bridal suite's waiting area while Victoria held court with her bridesmaids. Some people just don't understand wedding protocol, I heard one bridesmaid say. Thank goodness Victoria knows how to handle difficult family members gracefully. They were talking about me. The woman who'd raised the groom they were celebrating was now just a difficult family member to be handled. The wedding ceremony was beautiful. Alex looked handsome in his tuxedo, beaming as Victoria walked down the aisle. For a moment, I forgot my hurt feelings and felt pure joy watching my son's happiness. Victoria was stunning in her dress. They exchanged vows under an arch of white roses, promising to love and honor each other forever. Alex's voice cracked with emotion when he spoke about finding his soulmate. I dabbed my eyes with tissues, remembering when Alex was little and said he'd marry me someday because I was the best mom ever. Now he was starting his own family. During the reception introduction, the DJ announced, "Please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Alex Sterling Roland." I was confused. Alex was taking Victoria's name? He'd never mentioned this change. Looking around, I saw Victoria's parents beaming with pride while I sat alone at my distant table. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ continued, "the happy couple thanks you for celebrating their new beginning together." New beginning. Like his old life never mattered. The cocktail hour buzzed with elegant conversation. I tried mingling, but Victoria's friends spoke about people and places I didn't know. The Sterling family guests were polite but distant, making small talk before drifting away. I found my assigned table in the back corner. My tablemates were strangers. An elderly couple, a single woman about my age, and a young man who looked as uncomfortable as I felt. "Are you family?" the woman asked. "I'm the groom's mother," I said. She looked surprised. "Oh. I'm just a neighbor of Victoria's aunt. I thought you were another plus one." The elderly man leaned over. "We don't know anyone here either." Seems like an interesting mixing strategy. I realized Victoria had created a table for people she considered unimportant. We were the misfits, tucked away where we wouldn't interfere with her perfect vision. Meanwhile, Victoria's college friends sat at premium tables near the dance floor, laughing and taking photos that would probably end up in wedding magazines. When dinner was served, the head table received their meals first, followed by Victoria's family and friends. Our table was served last, almost as an afterthought. I watched Alex cutting his steak, looking happy but tired. Victoria whispered in his ear constantly, directing his attention to various guests and photo opportunities. The father of the bride gave a speech about gaining a wonderful daughter-in-law and welcoming Alex to their family. He mentioned Alex's journey from humble beginnings to finding his place among people who appreciate his potential. No mention of the woman who'd sacrificed everything to give Alex those opportunities. Victoria's maid of honor spoke next, sharing stories about Victoria's generosity and grace. She sees the best in everyone and lifts people up to be their best selves. Alex is so lucky to have found someone who believes in him. The implication was clear: Victoria was improving Alex, upgrading him from his previous life. Including me. As dinner ended, the DJ announced it was time for special family dances. "We'll start with the bride and groom's first dance, followed by the father-daughter dance, and then the mother-son dance." My heart lifted. Finally, my moment with Alex. Victoria stood gracefully, but as I started to rise from my chair, she turned toward me with a bright smile. "Mrs. Roland, would you mind moving to the center table for photos? The lighting will be better there for the mother-son dance." A server quickly placed a chair at an empty table near the dance floor. I felt grateful for Victoria's thoughtfulness. Maybe I'd misjudged her intentions. As I approached the new chair, Victoria held it steady for me. "This will be perfect," she said sweetly. "Everyone will have a great view." The photographer positioned himself nearby, ready to capture the special moment between mother and son. Alex finished his dance with Victoria and turned toward me with a loving smile. I began to sit down, trusting Victoria to steady the chair. Just as my weight committed to sitting, Victoria yanked the chair backward. I crashed to the polished floor in front of 150 wedding guests. Pain shot through my hip and shoulder. My dress tore at the knee. Gasps echoed through the ballroom as heads turned toward the commotion. "Oops!" Victoria exclaimed loudly, her voice carrying across the sudden silence. "I'm so sorry. I thought you were already seated." These things happen when people get older and less steady. She made no move to help me up. Instead, she stepped back, letting Alex rush to assist me while she brushed invisible dust off her wedding dress. "Maybe we should skip the mother-son dance," she announced to the room. "I don't want anyone else getting hurt. Safety first." Laughter rippled through her friends' tables. Not sympathetic laughter, but the kind that comes from watching someone else's humiliation. Alex helped me to my feet, his face red with embarrassment. "Mom, are you okay?" I nodded, though my hip throbbed and my pride was shattered. "Your place is watching from the sidelines anyway," Victoria whispered, just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Alex guided me back to my corner table while the DJ quickly announced the cake-cutting ceremony to distract from my fall. Conversations resumed, but I caught people glancing my way and whispering. The elderly couple at my table looked horrified. "That was no accident," the woman murmured. "I saw her pull that chair clear away." "Disgraceful behavior," her husband agreed. "At her own wedding, too." But across the room, Victoria accepted congratulations and sympathy from her friends. I heard fragments of their conversations. Poor Victoria, having to deal with. And some people just can't handle elegant events. Alex returned with ice wrapped in a cloth napkin. "Mom, I'm so sorry. Victoria feels terrible. She says the chair must have been loose." I looked into my son's eyes, seeing the boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. He wanted to believe it was an accident. Admitting otherwise would shatter something precious about this day. "I'm fine, honey. Just clumsy." But inside, I was breaking. Victoria had humiliated me at my own son's wedding, and somehow made it look like my fault. While Alex danced with Victoria, I excused myself to find the restroom. My torn dress needed attention, and I needed a moment alone to process what had happened. In the hallway outside the ladies' room, I noticed a display case filled with framed photos and awards. The placard read, "Sterling Family Community Contributions." Most photos showed charity events and business achievements. But one frame caught my attention, a newspaper article about the children's hospital where I worked. The headline read, "Local Family Donates New Pediatric Wing." The photo showed Mr. and Mrs. Sterling presenting a large check to hospital administrators. But what made my breath catch was the smaller text. The Sterling Family Foundation has partnered with head pediatric nurse Tammy Roland, whose innovative programs have revolutionized children's cancer care. There was my photo, accepting recognition for the play therapy program I'd developed. The same program that had been featured in medical journals and copied by hospitals nationwide. Victoria's family had donated millions to support my work, but Victoria didn't know who I was. I stood staring at the newspaper clipping, my mind racing. The Sterling family had funded my pediatric program for 3 years. Their donations had bought specialized equipment, funded research, and helped save dozens of children's lives. Mrs. Sterling had even visited the hospital once, praising the innovative nurse whose programs were changing pediatric care forever. She'd shaken my hand and called my work truly inspiring. But Victoria had never connected the dots. She knew her parents supported children's healthcare initiatives, but she'd never bothered learning details about their charitable work. To Victoria, I was just Alex's embarrassing mother who worked at some hospital. She had no idea I was the same person her family had honored for medical innovation. The irony was staggering. Victoria had spent months treating me like an uneducated servant, while her own parents considered me accomplished enough to fund my professional dreams. I thought about all the sick children who'd benefited from the Sterling donations, all the families I'd helped through my programs. Victoria had pulled my chair away, but she'd also pulled away my silence. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of the newspaper article and the display case. My hands shook as I captured evidence of what Victoria didn't know. A woman emerged from the restroom and noticed me studying the display. "Wonderful work the Sterlings do," she said kindly. "My grandson was helped by that children's program. That nurse, Tammy Roland, she's an angel. Saved my grandson's life during his cancer treatment." I looked at her more carefully. She was one of the women from Victoria's family tables, someone I'd assumed was just another wealthy socialite. "Your grandson?" I asked. "Little Jamie. Leukemia. That play therapy program made all the difference. He said the hospital felt less scary because of the activities that nurse created." She dabbed her eyes. We nominated her for the State Nursing Award. She won, you know. I did know. The award sat on my kitchen counter at home, next to Alex's graduation photo. She sounds like a remarkable person, I managed. Oh, she is. I wish I could meet her someday and thank her properly. I returned to the reception with new purpose. Victoria was holding court at the head table, regaling guests with stories about the wedding planning process. Everything had to be perfect, she was saying. I couldn't let family drama ruin our special day. Some people just don't understand sophisticated events. Her friends nodded sympathetically. One woman said, "You handled that chair situation so gracefully. Lesser brides would have lost their composure." Victoria beamed. I learned early that you can't let other people's limitations affect your happiness. Sometimes you have to protect your vision, even from family. Alex sat beside her, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. My heart ached watching him torn between loyalty to his new wife and concern for his mother. The DJ announced the final dance of the evening. As couples took the floor, Victoria pulled Alex close, whispering something that made him glance toward my table with guilty eyes. She was cementing her victory, making sure he understood whose side he should choose. But Victoria didn't know that her victory was about to become her downfall. As the reception wound down, the elderly woman who'd spoken about her grandson approached my table. She'd been watching me throughout the evening, a puzzled expression on her face. "Excuse me," she said gently, "but you look very familiar. Have we met?" I smiled. "I don't think so." She studied my face more intently. "Wait. Are you by any chance connected to St. Mary's Children's Hospital?" Before I could answer, she gasped. "You're Tammy Roland. The nurse who saved my grandson." Her exclamation was loud enough to catch attention from nearby tables. Several guests turned to look as she continued. "Jamie's nurse. The one who created the play therapy program. Oh my goodness, I can't believe you're here." She called to her husband. "Harold, come here. This is the end. Mrs. Roland. We've wanted to thank you for years. Jamie's doing wonderfully now, thanks to your program." Their conversation was drawing more attention. People at surrounding tables began listening with interest. Word spread quickly through the reception. The woman whose grandson I'd helped began sharing details about my work with other guests. She revolutionized pediatric care, she told anyone who would listen. Created programs that help children cope with serious illnesses. The Sterling family has funded her work for years. More people approached, including several I recognized from the hospital charity events. One man stepped forward with tears in his eyes. "Mrs. Roland, you probably don't remember me, but you helped my daughter through her surgery last year. The art therapy activities you designed made her recovery so much easier." Another woman joined the growing circle. "My nephew was in your program too. You gave him hope when we thought he might give up fighting." Victoria, still at the head table, watched the commotion with growing confusion. Why was her wedding suddenly focused on Alex's mother? Alex looked stunned as he realized what was happening. These weren't random compliments. These were testimonials about his mother's professional accomplishments. The same accomplishments Victoria had dismissed as just working at a hospital. Mrs. Sterling had been chatting with friends when she heard my name mentioned repeatedly. Curious, she walked over to investigate the gathering crowd around my table. When she saw me, her face lit up with genuine delight. "Tammy. I can't believe you're here." She embraced me warmly. "Harold, look who's at Victoria's wedding. It's Tammy Roland from the Children's Hospital." Mr. Sterling approached with a huge smile. "The Tammy Roland? The nurse whose programs we've been funding. What an incredible coincidence." Mrs. Sterling turned to the gathered guests. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet one of the most remarkable women I know. Tammy Roland has saved countless children's lives through her innovative medical programs." She gestured toward the hallway display case. "Her work is featured right here in our foundation's achievements. We've been honored to support her research for 3 years. Victoria's face had gone pale. She was staring at her parents like they were speaking a foreign language. "Mom," she called out uncertainly, "what are you talking about?" Mrs. Sterling looked confused by her daughter's tone. "Victoria, dear, surely Alex told you about his mother's career? She's practically famous in pediatric medicine." The ballroom had gone quiet except for Mrs. Sterling's enthusiastic voice carrying across the space. "Tammy won the State Excellence in Nursing Award last year," she continued proudly. "Her play therapy programs are being implemented in children's hospitals nationwide." She turned back to me. "I still remember our first meeting. You were so passionate about helping sick children feel less afraid. Your programs have touched thousands of families." Mr. Sterling nodded enthusiastically. "The Sterling Foundation considers funding Tammy's work one of our greatest achievements. She's transformed pediatric care." Victoria stood frozen at the head table, her mouth slightly open. Around her, wedding guests murmured with interest and admiration. "I had no idea Alex's mother was so accomplished," one woman said. "Incredible," another guest agreed. "She seems so modest too." Alex walked over slowly, his face a mixture of pride and embarrassment. "Mom, I knew you were amazing, but I never realized. I mean, I should have told Victoria about your awards and recognition." His voice carried across the quiet ballroom, and I could hear the regret in it. Victoria finally found her voice, but it came out as a strangled whisper that somehow carried in the silence. "You mean she's actually important?" The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Guests exchanged uncomfortable glances at Victoria's obvious shock. Mrs. Sterling looked puzzled. "Important?" "Victoria, she's one of the most respected pediatric nurses in the state. Didn't you know?" Victoria's face turned red as she realized how her question sounded. Around the ballroom, the same people who'd laughed at my fall were now looking at her with confusion and disapproval. I mean, Alex never mentioned." She stammered. "That's because you never asked," Alex said quietly, but his voice carried. "Every time Mom tried to talk about her work, you changed the subject." The elderly woman who'd started this revelation spoke up clearly. "This woman saved my grandson's life. She's a hero, not someone to be hidden away at back tables." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Victoria was trapped in the center of attention she'd orchestrated, but now it was highlighting her ignorance and cruelty instead of my humiliation. Victoria stood at the head table, surrounded by guests who now saw her differently. The same people who'd admired her grace and sophistication minutes ago were looking at her with disappointment. Her mother approached with tears in her eyes. "Victoria, how could you not know this? How could you treat such a remarkable woman so poorly?" "I didn't know she was," Victoria began. "It shouldn't matter what she does for work," Mr. Sterling interrupted, his voice stern. "She's your husband's mother. She deserves respect regardless of her profession." Alex walked over to Victoria, his face serious. "We need to talk. Privately." But Victoria shook her head. If her humiliation was going to be public, her apology needed to be too. She picked up the microphone the DJ had been using for announcements. Her hands shook as she faced the crowd. "I owe everyone an apology, especially Mrs. Roland," she began, her voice barely steady. "I've treated Alex's mother terribly, and I have no excuse for my behavior." The ballroom was completely silent now. I was wrong to judge her, wrong to dismiss her, and especially wrong about the chair incident. It wasn't an accident. Gasps echoed through the room as she confessed publicly. Victoria's confession changed everything. She spent the rest of the evening personally apologizing to me and making sure I was comfortable and honored. Alex was quiet, processing how he'd failed to protect his mother from someone he loved. Later, he pulled me aside. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have stood up for you from the beginning. I was so worried about keeping peace that I forgot what really mattered." I hugged my son tightly. "You were trying to start your marriage on the right foot. I understand. No excuse, he said firmly. You raised me better than that. Victoria approached us hesitantly. Mrs. Roland, I know sorry isn't enough, but I want to learn. About you, about your work, about being the daughter-in-law you deserve. She paused, tears in her eyes. Would you consider letting me volunteer with your pediatric program? I want to understand what you do, why it matters. 6 months later, Victoria became one of our most dedicated volunteers. She discovered a passion for helping sick children and used her family's resources to expand our programs. My son's wedding had started as my humiliation, but it became the beginning of a real family built on respect and understanding. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.